Hey everyone, welcome. Let's talk about something real. What actually pushes someone over the edge to buy an electric car? We hear all about the big picture stuff, saving the planet, long-term savings, but what if I told you that sometimes it's not about that at all? Sometimes it comes down to one single moment.
So what is that final push? What's the thing that makes you say, okay, I'm doing it? For a lot of people, yeah, it's the environment, or maybe they just love new tech. But for the driver we're going to talk about today, well, his reason was a lot more urgent. And let's just say a whole lot more expensive.
Yeah. Look at that number, $3,300. Now that's not a down payment on a new car. Nope, that's a repair bill for an old one. And believe it or not, that single number right there was the tipping point that changed everything.
Okay, so let's get into it. This is where we meet Chris, a guy from Aurora, Illinois. And he was stuck. He found himself at this major crossroads, just staring at this massive repair bill for his good old gas-powered car.
And here's the thing, it's not like the idea of an EV was totally new to him. Chris had been kicking it around for a while. He wanted to do his part for the environment, get away from gas guzzlers, and for sure he was tired of those surprise maintenance bills. But it was that $3,300 quote for a catalytic converter that was the final straw. That's what took it from a, yeah, maybe someday kind of plan to a, holy smokes, I need to do this right now decision.
All right, so the decision's made. He's taken the plunge. But think about it. How do you actually go from a jaw-dropping repair quote one day to owning a brand new EV the next, especially when you're in a hurry? This is where we get into the nuts and bolts. First up, the sticker price. Chris ended up with a Subaru Solterra, and that set him back about 45 grand. So yeah, that's a pretty big investment, no doubt about it.
But of course, it's never just the car, right? He also had to spend another $1,200 to get a 220-volt charging outlet put in at his house. And this is a super important detail, something a lot of first-time EV buyers have to think about if they want to charge up easily at home.
Okay, but then we get to the good part. Some relief. Chris was able to get a $7,500 government rebate. And man, this just goes to show you how much those incentives can make a difference. The absolute best part? They applied it right there at the dealership. So boom, the price dropped instantly, made the whole thing so much easier. But this is where the story gets so real, so relatable. Chris flat out says, I might have done more homework if I'd had the time. His car was dying. It forced him to make a move. And I think that quote captures the reality for so many people. It wasn't some perfectly researched, spreadsheet-driven decision. It was a choice he had to make, and fast. Okay, so Chris has the car. He's officially an EV owner. But what's it really like? The day-to-day stuff. Let's talk about what actually happened. The surprises, the lessons, once the new car smell started to fade.
And you know what? The single biggest lesson he learned had nothing to do with finding a charger or figuring out the touchscreen. Nope, it came when the seasons changed, specifically when it got cold. And this was a curveball he just did not see coming. And the effect of that cold weather was, whoa. It was dramatic. Just flipping on the heater could chop his car's range by as much as 45 miles. 45! Now, if you live anywhere that gets a real winter, you know that's a huge deal. It was a way bigger limitation than he'd ever imagined.
So, you've got the rush decision, the big upfront cost, and now this massive surprise with the winter weather. It kind of makes you wonder, what's the final verdict? After all that, was it actually worth it? Let's find out what Chris has to say.
And his answer isn't as simple, yes, it's amazing, or no, I hate it. He says he's somewhat satisfied. And I gotta say, that level of honesty is just so valuable. It's not a perfect happily ever after story, and that's exactly what makes his experience feel so genuine and so credible.
So it really is a balancing act, isn't it? On one side of the scale, you have the challenges. A super rush decision and that crazy loss of range in the winter. But on the other side, you've got these really powerful benefits. The peace of mind knowing you're polluting less, and maybe even setting a good example for your friends and neighbors.
Which leads us to his final piece of advice. And honestly, I think it's fantastic. He basically says, look, do your research. Talk to people who know their stuff. But whatever you do, don't get stuck planning forever. You know that analysis paralysis thing? Yeah, avoid that. Sometimes you've just got to trust your gut and make the move when the moment is right for you.
And that brings us full circle, right back to the question we started with. But now it's for you. After hearing Chris's story, the good, the bad, and the surprising, what about you? What would it take?
When you think about your next car, what's your tipping point?